I walked outside at 6 in the morning and saw a white wedding tent sitting on my pasture like it had always belonged there. Folding chairs, string lights, a champagne wall. Someone had even hammered stakes into the soil my granddad used to swear was too stubborn to take a nail. And right in the middle of it all, Linda Barrett, president of the Cedar Ridge Estates Homeowners Association, smiled at me like I was the one trespassing. I'm Ethan Brooks, and I own a 200-acre farm just outside Fairview County, Iowa. It's not fancy, it's not rustic chic, it's just real red barn gravel drive, fence lines, I can walk in my sleep. I'm the kind of guy who likes quiet mornings and predictable problems like a busted sprinkler head or a gate that won't latch. 5 years ago, that quiet changed when Cedar Ridge Estates showed up next door. Overnight, my back fence stopped bordering cornfields and started bordering cul-de-sacs, patios, and people who thought living near farmland meant cute sunsets, not actual farming. Most of them were fine, honestly. Then Linda moved in. The first time I met her, she rolled up in a spotless white SUV parked right by my fence and leaned out like she was about to order at a drive-thru. She looked past me, past my boots, my muddy jeans, and said, "Hi." So, the cows. They're very visible from the cul-de-sac. I just stared at her because I didn't even know what that meant. She kept going like she'd practiced. It's not the aesthetic we're building, also the smell. It travels. I pointed at the field. "Ma'am, that smell is called outside, and those cows have been here longer than your HOA. She flinched at the word like I'd sworn in church. Homeowners Association, she corrected, crisp and proud. And we have standards. I told myself it was a weird first impression. It was not a weird first impression. After that, the letters started showing up in my mailbox, printed on thick paper with a little cedar tree logo like a corporate lawsuit wearing a sweater vest. One demanded I mitigate odor output during high-traffic weekend hours. Another suggested I repaint the barn to align with neighborhood palette. My favorite one complained about the visual disruption of my tractor being parked on my own land near the fence line. I didn't respond. I didn't go to meetings. I didn't argue with a group I never joined. But Linda didn't care about that detail. She'd pop up like clockwork, arms crossed at my fence, acting like she was doing me a favor by noticing my existence. "Ethan," she'd say, like we were friends, "we're trying to keep things nice." And I'd say, "They're already nice. You just moved next to a farm." The first real problem showed up in the form of neon orange survey stakes. I found them one morning near the north pasture, bright little flags stabbed into the grass, lined up like someone was plotting a crime scene. 2 guys with clipboards were walking around like they owned the place. I drove my ATV up and killed the engine. "Can I help you?" One of them blinked like he hadn't expected the land to talk back. We're with Cedar Ridge Event Committee, just evaluating a potential community space." I laughed once, short and sharp. "Community space, on my property." He looked at his buddy, then back at me. "We were told it was available." I yanked one of the stakes out of the ground and held it up. "Tell whoever told you that to stop, immediately." That afternoon, Linda appeared at my mailbox like she'd been waiting for her cue. She started sweet. "Ethan, honey, so my daughter is getting married. Small event, tasteful, very curated. We just need a little outdoor space. It would be such a wonderful way to bring the community together." I didn't even let her finish. "No." Her smile froze, then rebooted into something colder. "No. As in, you're refusing to support your neighbors." "No, as in you're asking to throw a wedding on my farm." She tilted her head. "It's just land. It's sitting there." I could feel my jaw tighten. "It's not sitting there. It's working. It's my livelihood." Her eyes went flat. "Well, that's disappointing. The Homeowners Association provides value. We keep things orderly." I leaned on my truck door. "I'm not in your HOA, Linda." And that's when she said the line that should have warned me she was out of her mind. "That doesn't mean it doesn't affect you." I figured she'd rant at the next meeting, maybe send more letters, maybe try to shame me on the neighborhood Facebook group. I didn't think she'd actually do what she did next. Because Saturday morning my farm turned into a wedding venue. I woke up to a low hum, generators and music that didn't belong in a pasture. I grabbed my jacket, stepped outside, and saw headlights moving across my field like fireflies with a budget. By the time I got to the north pasture, there were crews unloading decor, a florist arranging arches, and a guy in a headset waving people around like this was Madison Square Garden. Somebody had laid down white runners over the grass like my land was a carpet. I pulled up and shouted, "Hey, who's in charge?" Headset guy jogged over and glanced at my ATV. "Oh, perfect, you're the vendor. We're missing 2 hay bales near the photo area." I stared at him. "I'm the owner." His face did that slow, confused reboot. "Owner of the—" I swept my hand across the field. "All of it. This is my property. You're trespassing." Behind him, Linda walked up like she was arriving at her own party, sunglasses, clipboard, iced coffee, the whole thing. "Ethan," she said loud enough for the crew to hear, "don't do this today." I could barely believe she had the nerve. "Don't do what stops strangers from holding a wedding on my land." She smiled like I was being dramatic. "It's one day, one beautiful day, and honestly, you should be grateful. We're making this place look presentable." That's when I pulled out my phone and started recording slow pan faces, equipment, license plates, the tent, the stakes in the ground. I kept the camera steady even though my hands wanted to shake. Linda noticed and stepped closer. "Put that away." I didn't. "Say it again," I told her. "Say you're using my land without permission." Her mouth tightened. "You're being unreasonable. This benefits the community." I nodded, still filming. "Great. Then you won't mind explaining it to the sheriff." I called Deputy Mike Lawson because in a small county, you don't scroll through a list, you call the guy who coached your Little League team. He showed up 20 minutes later, took one look at the tent, and let out a long breath like he'd been dropped into a sitcom. "Ethan," he said quietly, "this is a mess." "It's my mess," I said, "on my land." Mike asked Linda for paperwork. She handed him a folder like she'd been waiting for applause. He flipped through it, then looked up. "Ma'am, this is an HOA event approval form." Linda lifted her chin. "Yes, signed by the board." Mike's voice stayed calm, but his eyes hardened. "That doesn't override private property." She blinked fast, offended. "We have an easement." I cut in. "No, you don't." Mike asked for boundaries, so I drove home, printed the county parcel map, and brought it back with the lines circled in red. He compared it, walked the fence, and nodded once. "Your land," he said. Linda's expression didn't change, but something in her posture did, like she wasn't used to reality being this blunt. "So what now?" she snapped. Mike looked at the crews. "Now you move everything off his property." And here's the thing, Mike was trying to keep it civil. He didn't want a scene. I didn't want a scene either, not really. But they didn't move. The crews hesitated. Guests were arriving. Linda started whispering to people, pointing at me like I was the villain ruining love itself. She waved at headset guy like, "Keep going," like I was just background noise. That night, I sat on my porch with my boots still on, staring at the fence line in the dark. I could hear distant music from my own field, like my life was happening somewhere without me, and I'll admit it. A thought hit me hard and quiet. Maybe I should just let it happen and fight later, because lawsuits cost money, because I still had cattle to feed at 5 a.m., because these people had time to argue and I had work. Then Sunday morning I found the moment that flipped the switch. They'd removed a section of my fence, not a misunderstanding, not a "we didn't know." They physically unbolted it to open up a better angle for photos, like my boundary was a suggestion. And right when I was standing there staring at that gap, I heard Linda's voice carrying through the field. She had a microphone. "Thank you all," she announced, bright and proud, for transforming this unused farmland into the perfect Cedar Ridge experience. Unused. That word hit me like a slap. My phone buzzed. Tom Ellis, a guy from Cedar Ridge. I'd seen walking his dog, usually quiet. The text said, "She didn't get permission from anyone. The board's freaking out. If you have proof, bring it tonight." I looked at the missing fence panel, then at my tractor parked by the barn, and I stopped thinking about being nice. Monday morning, before the crews could reset for the final send-off shots, I fired up my tractor like I always do. I hooked up the spreader I use every season because on a farm, manure isn't a prank, it's part of the schedule. I drove slow along the edge of the setup, staying on my side of the property line, keeping the tires steady. The spreader rattled behind me, clank clank, like it was clearing its throat. When the first wave hit the grass near their white runner, it wasn't explosive or cartoonish. It was just unmistakable, thick, real. The exact smell Linda claimed shouldn't exist. By 8, cars started pulling in and immediately stopping like they'd hit an invisible wall. Linda climbed out of her SUV, took 2 steps, and froze. Her sunglasses didn't help. She spun in place, scanning the field like the smell had a manager she could complain to. Then she screamed loud enough for the whole crew to hear. Who did this? I parked the tractor and climbed down slow, wiping my hands on my jeans like I'd just finished any other morning chore. I pointed at the fence line. That's my land, Linda. Her face went red, then white. You can't. This is sabotage. Deputy Mike rolled up again because Tom wasn't the only one making calls. Mike stepped out, looked at my parcel map, watched the crew gagging politely into their sleeves, and then looked straight at Linda. Ma'am, he said, clear and final, you were told to leave. You didn't. Now you're done here. Linda tried to pull rank like it was a badge. I'm the president of the HOA. Mike didn't even blink. And this isn't your neighborhood. It's his property. Pack it up or I'll write it up. That was the first time I saw Linda's confidence crack in public. No speech, no spin. Just a tight, shaky breath like she couldn't believe consequences were real. That night Tom texted again. Board meeting. They played your video. They voted her out. I didn't reply with emojis. I didn't drive over to watch. I just stood at my fence line, looked at the pasture returning to quiet, and felt something settle back into place like a gate finally latching. Because the truth is simple. Boundaries don't care who's loudest. Lesson. If someone treats your no like decoration, make sure the law and the line in the dirt say it louder.